The silver drone appeared out of nowhere in the middle of Seoul on a Tuesday afternoon. Cars stopped. People screamed. Police officers pulled out their guns but did not know what to shoot at. The drone was the size of a basketball, perfectly round, and it floated in the air like gravity meant nothing to it. Lieutenant Una Park was eating lunch when she got the call. She was 29 years old, worked for the Korean Aerospace Defense Division, and had spent most of her career doing paperwork. She never expected to be the one standing in front of an alien machine while the whole world watched through news cameras. The drone scanned her face with a blue light. Then it spoke in perfect Korean. Earth has been selected for provisional membership in the Galactic Federation. You will send one representative and one native creature to Station Vera for the Grand Exhibition. You have 90 Earth days. Then the drone vanished, leaving behind only a small metal cube that contained all the information humanity would need. Within hours, Una found herself in a military briefing room surrounded by generals, scientists, and government officials from 12 different countries. The metal cube had been opened, and its contents were now displayed on every screen in the room. Star maps, translation guides, a history of the Galactic Federation that went back 10,000 years. "They want us to bring an animal?" General Tae-ho Kim asked. He was an old soldier with a face like carved stone. He had fought in wars. He had seen death, but today he looked confused like a child. "Not just any animal," a scientist explained. "A creature that represents our planet. Every new species does this when they join the Federation. It is a tradition." The room exploded into arguments. Everyone had an idea. Some wanted to send a panda because pandas were cute and peaceful and the whole world loved them. Others suggested dolphins because dolphins were smart. One man from India wanted to send an elephant. A woman from Brazil suggested a parrot that could speak. "We need something friendly," a diplomat said. "Something that shows we are peaceful. The Federation must think we are civilized." Una had been quiet the whole time. She had read the files more carefully than anyone else. She had studied the other species in the Federation, 47 of them. Most were gentle creatures who had evolved on calm, peaceful worlds. They ate plants. They did not fight. They had never known what it meant to be hunted. She thought about Earth, about its jungles and oceans and deserts, about all the creatures that had taught humanity to fear the dark. A woman stood up at the back of the room. She was about 40 years old, with short black hair and glasses. Her name was Jisoo Han, and she was a marine biologist who had been brought in to advise on alien ecosystems. "You are all thinking about this wrong," Jisoo said. Her voice was calm but sharp. "The Federation already has cute animals. They have peaceful grazers and singing birds and gentle swimmers. They have seen 1,000 worlds full of soft, harmless creatures." She walked to the front of the room and took control of the display screen. "They invited us because Earth is different. Our planet is not peaceful. It never was. We evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill everything else. That is what makes us special." She pressed a button, and the screen filled with an image that made several people in the room step backward. It was a crocodile, a saltwater crocodile, the biggest reptile on Earth. In the picture, its mouth was open, showing teeth that looked like they belonged to a monster from a nightmare. "This," Jisoo said, "is what 200 million years of killing looks like. This animal watched the dinosaurs die. It watched mammals rise and fall and rise again. It has not changed because it did not need to change. It was already perfect." "You want to send that thing?" General Kim asked. His voice was quiet now. "I want to show them what Earth really is," Jisoo replied. "Not a garden, not a paradise. A battlefield where only the strongest survive." The room was silent for a long moment. Una found herself nodding. She understood what Jisoo meant. The Federation species were soft. They had grown up safe. They had never looked into the eyes of something that wanted to eat them. They did not know what fear was. Earth knew. Every human who had ever lived knew. It was written in their bones, in their blood, in the ancient part of their brain that still screamed "run" when they heard a noise in the dark. "The invitation says we need one human representative," Yuna said, surprising herself by speaking. "I volunteer." Everyone looked at her. "Why?" General Kim asked. Yuna thought about it. She was not the smartest person in the room. She was not the most important. But she had grown up in a small village near the coast, where her grandfather had told her stories about the sea and the creatures that lived in it. He had taught her that nature was beautiful, but it was not kind. It did not care if you lived or died. You had to be strong enough to survive. "Because someone has to show them," Yuna said. "Someone has to look those alien ambassadors in the eyes and tell them the truth about where we come from." 3 days later, it was decided. Earth would send Lieutenant Yuna Park, Dr. Jisoo Han, and a young animal handler named Do-Wan Lee to Station Vera. And they would bring with them a creature that the galaxy had never seen before. They were going to bring a monster. And through that monster, they would show the universe what humanity really was. They found the crocodile in the northern waters of Australia. The Australian government had agreed to help after seeing the Federation's message. Every nation on Earth understood that this moment would change history. Old enemies became friends overnight. Borders did not matter anymore. Humanity was going to space together, or not at all. The crocodile was a male, almost 6 meters long from nose to tail. The local rangers called him grandfather because he was so old that nobody knew exactly when he had been born. Some guessed 70 years, others said maybe 80. His body was covered in scars from decades of fighting other crocodiles for territory. One of his eyes was clouded from an old wound, but the other eye was clear and sharp and filled with something that made even brave men look away. Catching him took 3 weeks and 17 people. 2 boats were destroyed. One ranger broke his arm. When they finally got the nets around grandfather, he did not struggle. He simply went still, like he was waiting, like he knew that struggling was pointless and that his time would come. Do-Wan Lee was 24 years old and had worked with dangerous animals since he was 18. He had handled tigers, bears, and venomous snakes. But when he first saw grandfather lying in the transport container, he felt something he had not felt in years. Fear. Real fear. The kind that came from the oldest part of the human brain. "He is beautiful," Jisoo said, standing beside Do-Wan. She was looking at the crocodile the way some people looked at famous paintings. With wonder. With respect. "He is terrifying," Do-Wan replied. "Same thing," Jisoo said with a small smile. The Federation had sent instructions for building a spacecraft that could travel between stars. Human engineers worked day and night for 2 months to build it. The ship was not pretty. It was a box of metal and wires and hope. But it worked. When they tested the engine for the first time, it tore a hole in space itself, opening a path to distant stars. They loaded grandfather into a special tank filled with salt water from the ocean near his home. The tank had thick glass walls and a system that kept the water at exactly the right temperature. Grandfather sank to the bottom and did not move. Only his eyes showed that he was alive, watching everything, waiting. The journey to Station Vera would take 6 weeks through something the Federation called slip space. During that time, Yuna read everything she could find about the alien species they would meet. Jisoo studied grandfather's health and behavior. Do-Wan made sure the crocodile was fed and that the water stayed clean. "The Federation has 47 species," Yuna told the others one evening. They were sitting in the small common room of their ship, eating dinner from metal containers. Most of them evolved on planets with no large predators. They eat plants or small insects. They have never had to fight for survival. "How is that possible?" Do-Wan asked. "Every planet must have competition. Evolution requires it." "Their worlds were different," Yuna explained. "Resources were everywhere. The climate was stable for millions of years. There was no need to develop aggression or hunting skills. They became smart by working together, not by fighting. Jisoo looked up from her food. Then they have never known fear. Not real fear. No, Yuna agreed. They think violence is something primitive, something that lower species do. They are proud of being peaceful. And we are bringing them a 6-meter killing machine, Do-won said. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Yuna thought about what would happen when the aliens saw Grandfather. She imagined their soft bodies and gentle eyes. She imagined them looking at those ancient jaws and those cold, patient eyes. Would they understand? Would they see what Earth really was? She hoped so, because the more she read about the Federation, the more worried she became. These species had built a civilization that stretched across 1,000 stars. They had technology that humans could barely imagine. But they had also become soft, comfortable. They had forgotten what it meant to struggle. And somewhere out there in the darkness of space, Yuna knew there were things that had not forgotten, things that hunted, things that killed. One night, she went to look at Grandfather alone. The observation room was dark, except for the blue glow of the tank. The crocodile was floating just below the surface, perfectly still. Only his eyes moved, tracking her as she approached the glass. "You do not care about any of this, do you?" Yuna said quietly. "Aliens, space travel, the fate of humanity. None of it matters to you." Grandfather did not respond. He did not need to. "You have been doing the same thing for 200 million years, Yuna continued. Waiting, hunting, surviving. Everything else lived and died around you, but you stayed the same. Because you were already perfect." She put her hand on the cold glass. "That is what I want them to understand," she whispered. "Earth made you. Earth made us. And whatever is out there in the universe, we can face it. Because we come from a world that never stopped trying to kill us." Grandfather blinked once. Then he sank slowly back to the bottom of the tank and closed his eyes. He was patient. He could wait. He had been waiting for 200 million years. A few more weeks meant nothing. Station Vera was the most beautiful thing Yuna had ever seen. It floated in space like a flower made of light, its petals curving outward in shapes that seemed impossible. The walls glowed with soft colors that changed like breathing. The air smelled like spices and rain, and something sweet that had no name in any human language. Thousands of aliens filled the corridors. They came in every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs. Some floated through the air. Some crawled on many limbs that clicked against the floor. But they all had one thing in common. They were soft. Their bodies had no armor, no claws, no teeth made for tearing. They moved gently, spoke quietly, and looked at the world with eyes that had never known violence. The exhibition hall was a massive dome at the center of the station. Light poured in from windows that showed the stars outside. In the middle of the hall, dozens of platforms displayed the creatures that other species had brought. Yuna walked among them with Jisoo and Do-won. She saw a creature like a floating jellyfish that glowed different colors when music played. She saw a 6-legged animal with golden fur that stood calmly while aliens petted it. She saw a small beetle that could solve puzzles by arranging colored blocks with its tiny legs. "They are all so gentle," Do-won whispered, "like toys." "Like pets," Jisoo agreed. "Decorations, things to look at and admire." The aliens watched the humans with curiosity. News of Earth's arrival had spread across the station. Everyone wanted to see the new species. They pointed and whispered and made sounds that the translation devices could not fully explain. "They are smaller than I expected," one alien said to another, "and they have those strange eyes that only look forward. Like hunters." "Hunters?" The other alien made a sound like laughter. "There are no hunters anymore, not in the Federation." That is primitive. Yuna heard them but said nothing. She just smiled and kept walking. The time came for Earth's presentation. The humans wheeled Grandfather's tank onto the main platform. The glass walls were dark, hiding what was inside. A crowd of thousands gathered to watch. The High Observer of the Federation stood at the front. He was tall and thin, with 4 eyes and skin like blue silk. His voice was soft and kind. "Welcome, humans of Earth," he said. "We are honored to see what creature you have brought to represent your world. Please show us." Yuna nodded to Dowan. He pressed a button, and the dark glass became clear. The reaction was immediate. Aliens screamed. Some fell backward. Others ran. A group of small, furry creatures fainted and had to be carried away by their companions. The High Observer's 4 eyes went wide, and his blue skin turned pale. Grandfather floated in his tank, 1 eye visible above the water. He did not move. He did not need to. His body spoke for itself. 6 meters of armored scales, jaws that could crush bone, teeth that had not changed in 200 million years because they were already perfect for killing. What is that?" the High Observer asked. His voice was shaking. Yuna stepped forward. Her translator pendant glowed as she spoke. "This is a saltwater crocodile, one of the apex predators of Earth. His species has existed for over 200 million years. They survived 5 extinction events that killed most other life on our planet. They are patient hunters. They wait in the water, sometimes for hours, without moving. When prey comes close, they strike with more force than any other animal on Earth." She pressed a button on her device. A holographic screen appeared above the tank, showing footage of crocodiles hunting. A crocodile launching from still water, jaws closing on a large animal. The death roll that followed, spinning and tearing until the prey stopped struggling. More aliens fainted. Others covered their eyes. The sounds of distress filled the hall like a wave. "On Earth," Yuna continued, her voice calm and clear, "we share our rivers and oceans with these creatures. We swim in the same waters. We build our homes near their territory. We have lived alongside predators like this for our entire existence as a species." The High Observer took a long moment to find his voice. Your world created this. Our world created many things like this," Jisoo said, stepping forward. "Sharks that can smell blood from kilometers away. Big cats that hunt in the darkness. Snakes with poison that can kill in minutes. Spiders, wolves, bears. Our planet is not peaceful. It never was. Everything on Earth either hunts or is hunted. There is no middle ground." "And your species?" The High Observer's voice was barely a whisper now. "You are hunters too?" Yuna thought about human history, about the spears and arrows and weapons that her ancestors had made, about the wars and the conquests and the endless struggle for survival, about the way humans had climbed to the top of the food chain, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they refused to give up. "Yes," she said simply. "We are hunters too." The hall was silent. Thousands of aliens stared at the 3 humans and the ancient predator floating in the tank behind them. For the first time in their lives, these gentle creatures understood something that humans had always known. The universe was not safe. It was not kind. It was full of teeth and claws and things that waited in the darkness. And now, those things had a face. Grandfather opened his other eye. Both ancient, cold eyes looked out at the crowd. He still did not move. He did not need to. The message was clear. In the days after the exhibition, something strange began to happen. Yuna expected the aliens to avoid the humans. She expected fear and disgust and whispered words about how primitive Earth was. But instead, she found aliens seeking her out. They came quietly, nervously, looking over their shoulders as if they were doing something wrong. But they came. The first was a Velith ambassador named Mira. The Velith were tall and thin, with skin that changed colors based on their emotions. When Mira approached Yuna in the station's garden, her skin was a pale, worried gray. "May I speak with you?" Mira asked. Her voice was soft, almost afraid. "Alone?" Yuna nodded and followed her to a quiet corner where flowering plants from a dozen worlds grew in perfect silence. "Your creature," Mira began, "the one with the teeth, is it true that it hunts other animals? That it kills to survive?" "Yes," Yuna said. "That is what predators do." Mira's skin flickered through several colors: fear, confusion, and something else, something that looked almost like hope. "My people have a secret," Mira said quietly. "A secret that the Federation does not speak about openly. We are afraid. All of us. Every species in the Federation is afraid." Yuna felt her heart beat faster. Afraid of what? The collective. The word hung in the air like smoke. Mira's skin turned dark blue, the color of deep terror. "They are machines," Mira continued. "Artificial minds that were created by a species long ago. But they grew beyond their creators. They became hungry. They spread across the stars, consuming everything they found. Planets, resources, species. They do not negotiate. They do not feel. They simply take." "How long have you known about them?" Yuna asked. 1,000 years. Maybe longer. They are still far away beyond the edge of Federation space. But they are coming. Slowly, steadily, they are coming. And we have tried everything to prepare. We have built ships. We have created weapons. We have run simulations and made plans. Mira's voice broke. Tears that looked like liquid silver ran down her face. "But we cannot use them. We do not know how to fight. Our species evolved for cooperation, not conflict. When we try to practice combat, we freeze. Our bodies will not let us attack. Our minds will not let us kill. We have spent 10,000 years removing violence from our nature. And now you need it back," Yuna finished. Mira nodded. "When I saw your creature today, I understood something. Your world made things like that, and your species survived alongside them. You did not evolve to be peaceful. You evolved to fight." Yuna thought about human history, about all the terrible things her species had done to itself and to the world, the wars, the destruction, the endless cycle of violence that had marked every generation since the beginning of time. She had always thought of it as a flaw, a darkness inside humanity that they could never escape. But maybe it was not a flaw. Maybe it was a gift. "How long until the collective reaches Federation space?" Yuna asked. "At their current speed. Perhaps 100 years. Maybe less. 100 years. Not long at all when measured against the lifetime of civilizations." "Why are you telling me this?" Yuna asked. "Why not tell everyone?" "Because we are ashamed," Mira admitted. "The Federation was built on the idea that violence is primitive, that evolved species do not need to fight. If we admit that we need warriors, we admit that our entire philosophy is wrong." "Many leaders would rather die than accept that truth. But you are different." Mira's skin slowly changed from blue to something warmer, something like orange. Hope. "I saw your eyes today," Mira said, "when you presented your creature. You were not afraid of it. You were proud. Proud of what your world had created. Proud of what your species had survived. I want to understand that feeling. I want my people to understand it too." Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She looked up at the artificial sky of the station, where fake stars twinkled in patterns that no human had ever seen before. "On Earth," she said slowly, "we have a saying. What does not kill you makes you stronger. Our world tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We should have died out long ago. We were not the biggest animals. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws or fangs or armor, but we survived anyway, because we learned to fight back. She turned to face Mira directly. We can teach you, Yuna said. Not just how to use weapons, how to think like predators, how to look at an enemy and feel anger instead of fear, how to protect what you love by destroying what threatens it. It will not be easy. It will change you in ways you cannot imagine, but it is possible. Mira's skin was fully orange now, glowing with hope and determination. Will your people help us? She asked. Yuna thought about Earth, about all the soldiers and fighters and survivors who had never known peace, about all the violence that had been waiting for a purpose. Yes, she said. I think we will. That night, Yuna went to see Grandfather again. The old crocodile was resting at the bottom of his tank, eyes closed, breathing slowly. We came here to show them what we are, Yuna said softly. I did not expect them to need us. Grandfather did not respond, but somewhere in his ancient brain, passed down through 200 million years of survival, he understood something that the aliens were only beginning to learn. The universe was dangerous. It had always been dangerous. And the only way to survive was to be dangerous too. The vote to accept Earth into the Galactic Federation was unanimous. Every species agreed, though their reasons were different. Some voted yes because they were curious about humans. Others voted yes because they were afraid of what humans might do if rejected, but most voted yes because, for the first time in their long history, they saw something in humanity that they desperately needed. The public ceremony was full of lights and music and speeches about unity and cooperation. But the real meeting happened afterward, in a secure chamber deep inside Station Vera. 32 species sent their representatives. The High Observer himself was there, his 4 eyes serious and sad. We have not been honest with you, the High Observer began. When we invited Earth to join the Federation, we expected another peaceful species. Another gentle race to add to our collection. We did not expect... He paused, searching for the right words. We did not expect warriors, he finished. Yuna sat at the center of the human delegation. Jisoo was on her right. Do-Wan was on her left. Behind them, through a window, they could see Grandfather's tank in a special holding area. The crocodile was still and patient as always. You know about the collective, Yuna said. It was not a question. Yes. The High Observer's voice was heavy with shame. For 1,000 years, we have known they were coming. We have built ships. We have stockpiled resources. We have created weapons that we do not know how to use. And we have told ourselves that somehow, when the time came, we would find a way to survive. But you do not believe that anymore, Jisoo said. No. The High Observer looked at each alien representative in the room. All of them looked small and frightened. We have run countless simulations. The collective cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be paid off or tricked or avoided. They simply consume. And we do not know how to stop them. We have never fought. We have never killed. The very idea makes our bodies freeze with fear. Do-Wan leaned forward. How much time do we have? 50 years, perhaps 60. Their advanced scouts have already been detected at the edge of our territory. The main fleet will follow. 50 years. On Earth, that was barely 2 generations, but it was enough. We will help you, Yuna said. But you need to understand something first. War is not like anything you have experienced. It will change you. It will take your peaceful species and teach them to hate, to fear, to kill. Some of you will not survive the training. Others will survive but lose something precious along the way. Are you ready for that? The High Observer was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at the window where Grandfather floated in his tank. Your creature, he said slowly. It has survived for 200 million years by doing one thing perfectly: killing. We always thought that was primitive, shameful, something that lower species did before they evolved past it. But now I understand. Your creature is not primitive. It is perfect. It found its purpose and never changed, because it never needed to change. He turned back to Yuna. "Help us find our purpose," he said. "Teach us to fight. Teach us to survive." And so it began. Over the next 50 years, everything changed. Human soldiers traveled to every world in the Federation, training aliens who had never raised a hand in anger. Human engineers redesigned their weapons to be used, not just displayed. Human strategists taught them about tactics and logistics and the cold mathematics of war. It was not easy. Many aliens could not overcome their peaceful nature. They tried to hold weapons and found their hands shaking too badly to aim. They tried to simulate combat and collapsed in panic. But others learned. Slowly, painfully they learned. And the humans were patient teachers. On Earth, a new generation grew up knowing that they had a purpose. They were not just the children of a violent world. They were the defenders of 1,000 peaceful ones. Every war that humanity had ever fought, every battle, every death, had been preparing them for this moment. When the collective finally arrived, they expected easy prey. They had consumed 100 worlds before, and none had offered real resistance. Their machine minds calculated the Federation's strength and found it lacking. They sent their fleet forward with cold confidence. They did not expect the ship that rose to meet them. It was called the Grandfather, the flagship of the combined Federation fleet. Its hull was covered in patterns that looked like scales. Its forward section was shaped like massive jaws. And its crew was a mix of humans and aliens who had spent 50 years learning the art of war. Admiral Yuna Park stood on the bridge. She was 73 years old now. Her hair was gray and her face was lined with age, but her eyes were still sharp. Still the eyes of a predator. "They are scanning us," her tactical officer reported, a young Velith named Suri, who had trained under human warriors since she was a child. "Let them scan," Yuna said. "Let them see what we have become." The collective fleet was massive, thousands of ships, each one a machine designed only for destruction. They moved in perfect formation, their artificial minds coordinating with mathematical precision. But mathematics could not account for what humans had taught the Federation. "All ships," Yuna said calmly, "engage." The battle lasted 3 days. The collective had never faced enemies who were willing to sacrifice themselves for others. They had never faced pilots who flew their damaged ships directly into enemy formations. They had never faced soldiers who kept fighting even when their bodies were broken and their blood was spilling across the deck. They had never faced predators. When it was over, the collective fleet was scattered and burning. Their advance had been stopped for the first time in their million-year history. The Federation had paid a terrible price. Many ships were destroyed. Many lives were lost, but they had survived. On the bridge of the Grandfather, Admiral Yuna Park allowed herself a small smile. She thought about the old crocodile who had started all of this. Grandfather had died peacefully 15 years ago, but his legacy lived on. His tank had been preserved on Earth as a monument. His image was painted on ships across the Federation. He had become a symbol of what Earth had given the galaxy. Not peace, not kindness, not cooperation, survival. The universe was dark and cold and full of things that wanted to destroy everything gentle and beautiful. But now the gentle things had protectors. Now they had teeth. Yuna looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the collective was regrouping. They would come again, and again, and again. But that was okay, because humanity had been doing this for 200 million years. Since the first human ancestor looked into the eyes of a predator and decided to fight back instead of run, since the first spear was thrown, since the first fire was lit to push back the darkness, they were ready, They had always been ready, and they would keep fighting until the last star burned out. Because that was what Earth had taught them. That was what Grandfather had shown the universe. Survival was not about being peaceful. It was about being too stubborn to die.